Well, we talked about this topic many times especially since the pandemic is happened. We know that things are tense, and there's been a lot of people who've lost their jobs, who've been ruined financially by this pandemic and the sort of output from it. But according to Forbes, the world's annual billionaires list it includes a record-breaking 2,755 billionaires,
Mm.
with Amazon Inc. founder Jeff Bezos topping it for the fourth consecutive year.
Mm-hmm.
The ranks of the ultra wealthy are expanding after a year in which the coronavirus pandemic upended the world's economies and threatened the livelihoods of people across the globe. Now,
So,
go ahead.
how do we explain this?
This year's billionaires are worth 13.1 trillion combined, up from 8 trillion last year. So the world's richest people, the billionaire class, they gained $5 trillion since last year.
Mm.
Elon Musk has jumped into the second spot. He was only 31st last year. Bill Gates, Bernard Arnault, Warren Buffett actually fell out of the top 5. Poor him. So ultimately, the richest people come from titans of finance, media, and economics. Now, there is a rare club of billionaires, and that would be African American billionaires. The richest black person in America is Robert Smith, whose $6 billion fortune made in private equity makes him the 451st wealthiest person in the world. So the richest black man in I guess the richest African American man in the world is only the 451st wealthiest
Now
person in the
what?
world.
Now he's a private investor.
Equity, I guess. Yeah, I know he was definitely involved in investing. So
What was his name again?
Robert Smith.
Robert Smith.
He was the guy who paid all those Morehouse graduates tuition. Did you see that last year?
Vista Equity Partner. Yeah.
Yeah, last year he paid all the graduating class of Morehouse's tuition.
Uh-huh.
Oprah and Tyler Perry, as well as rap icons Jay-Z and Kanye West, are billionaires. And Kim Kardashian has become a billionaire as well. And so it's just what we talked about constantly on this show about how the wealthy are getting wealthy while the poor are getting poor. The wealth divide between the rich and the poor is gathering. And there's actually somebody out there who recognizes this, who made a statement about it that was very controversial. I don't want to say controversial, but it definitely had people talking last week about it, about the divisions in our society. Let's listen to who it is.
Shared that news, how painful it was.
Yeah, but the one thing I took out of that piece was, man, I think most white people and black people are great people. I really believe that in my heart. But I think our system is set up where our politicians, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, are designed to make us not like each other so they can keep their grasp of money and power. They divide and conquer. I truly believe in my heart most white people and black people are all stupid following our politicians, whether they are Republicans or Democrats. And their only job is, hey, let's make these people not like each other. We don't live in their neighborhoods. We're all got money. Let's make the whites and blacks not like each other. Let's make rich people and poor people not like each other. Let's scramble the middle class. I truly believe that in my heart.
So that was one Charles Barkley talking about the divisions in our society. And on some level, I agree with him when he's talking about how our politicians cynically use divisions, whether it's racial divisions or whatever, to separate us. But on another level, I think it's definitely an oversimplification. It's definitely an oversimplification to just say that politicians are the reason that rich people and poor people are divided, and black people and white. I mean, he kind of ignores the whole history of slavery in this country and racism. And that's
Well,
yeah.
I mean, at some point, you can't continue to put the blame there.
Right.
And the only reason I say that is just because we've had over 150 years since then to do better. And by we, I don't mean us black folks. So we've been doing all we could to do better. whatever the goalposts were, we've been doing our level best to put the ball through the uprights. That the goalposts keep moving. But they've had 150 years to figure out what would satisfy them to say, okay, we're not going to view you as a distinct set of people, that you have to prove yourself to us before we'll treat you as citizens, full stop. So, at some point, I don't want to hear about that slavery is the reason the problem is, because the people that are doing it today don't have that excuse.
Right. Well,
that's their crutch, but that they can't blame the fact that we were their slaves, because we weren't their slaves. So they need to just recognize that we're citizens just like they are. Right. And so why do they want to treat us differently?
Right. And even after slavery, Jim Crow into the 1960s and the continued prison industrial complex, and bringing full circle to where we had to talk about George Floyd at the beginning of this show, and police brutality to this very day.
But I do agree with you that no, you can't just lay it all at the feet of the politicians, because politicians, they're just running for office.
Yep.
Their whole thing is about, okay, what can I say or do that will cause people to vote for me? So they don't lead the country's culture, they follow it.
Right.
They don't set the pace, they try to keep up with it.
Absolutely.
So it's the people, period, who have the ability to shape society. Yes, media. Yes, entertainment industry that creates these tropes, that do movie after movie after movie, that reinforce certain messages, that bend the artistic side of music in favor of the money chasing side of music, and try to push a narrative for the sake of making money that is not the best possible construction of us, but generally speaking, the worst. I look to you all, because I expect better from, quote unquote, our creative class. They're supposed to look at things that are not and say, why can't they be?
Absolutely. I'm with you 100%, Rel. I think the corporatization of our media has really done a job on us. We talked about maybe a month ago the anniversary of the Telecommunications Act of 1996, where you saw our media go from there used to be 60 media companies in the early 1980s, and now there's only 3. Like they collapsed on themselves, and so you have these super mega conglomerates that control everything we see and hear in our society, and they are the ones who, to me, it's connected. Whether we're talking about my issues with the mainstream media lying about the virus or lying about the vaccine, or whether it's the billionaire class getting richer, or the endless wars that we're fighting in this country, or we're talking about the creative class, as you call them, and the type of repetitive, mindless, mind-numbing garbage that a lot of these people are putting out. It's all interconnected from my perspective. Let's get this caller really quick. Hello, caller.
Yes. Good evening. Good evening.
Yes, Doc.
Yes. I have to call and see what's on your mind, and seeing what worldly problems that you're trying to solve, and see if I can share some input. And you were speaking about the gap between the rich and the poor.
Yes.
Just maybe they don't have to be poor, but just the fact that the rich is getting richer and richer, and they're distancing themselves. And even if it's a excessive behavior that control them to do that. And hey, at the end of their lives, things continue. So with us as, citizens, people, looking at the gap how do I benefit looking at how wide the gap is? Shouldn't I be more concerned about whether I'm happy, whether I'm satisfied? Because I've learned for sure that these are certain things, values and morals that money can't buy. So should I listen to the rappers and talk about their bling bling, or see the basketball players make so much money? Because they're kind of like in a goldfish bowl anyway, so they have to be paid to be where they are, and just be there for United States entertainment team. So, but where do we stop thinking that what somebody else made should dictate how happy I am? Oprah Winfrey, she's making this much, and what do I do with that information right there? Oh, this guy here, he's the 400th billionaire. Well, that's very good entertainment, but what do I package this information and store it up for later use, or just information you hear to show you something you don't know, but it ain't no way affect you? There's no solution. So all I say is, how do we define where we are happy on individual? What we've accomplished, because you don't know how far down somebody came, and to just do something you love might just come, and it might be serving people or something like that, might give you the greatest satisfaction, and a person that have money might never find. So I think we should spend all of our energy finding out where happiness is, where success is, and where being satisfied is in our lives. Some people can just overcome a drug habit and make minimum wage and think he's in the. You can't find a millionaire any happier than that.
Well,
person.
see, Doc, I understand where you're coming from. I'm not me personally. I'm not saying that we should be necessarily just envious of people because of what they have. What I'm saying is the billionaire class, they take their wealth and then they directly affect our living standard. They buy off our politicians, they buy up our media, they buy up our corporations, send jobs overseas, don't pay taxes, and extricate the resources from, say, Lake Michigan. We're always complaining about how U.S. Steel gets to live and sit on Lake Michigan, 21% of the world's fresh water here in the Great Lakes, and barely hires anybody from Gary, and barely pays any taxes. That's what happens when you have a billionaire plutocracy. When you have a corporate plutocracy, which we have in this country, you have the rich getting richer, the poor getting poor. The rich have all the political power, and they're able to dictate to the rest of us.
Well, what about the rich getting richer and the poor getting better? Always keep a positive view, because you can't say what everybody normally say, but learn how to say something a little bit different. The rich getting richer and the poor, they're getting better. Have programmed in your mind to say, so you can be conditioned by something somebody else thought of. So the thing is,
I guess in a way, Doc, it's to a certain extent it's irrelevant if the rich are getting richer in and of itself. That the rich are getting richer may or may not be relevant. What is relevant, however, is that the rich are getting richer and they're becoming increasingly disconnected from their fellow citizens. That they occupy a space where they are no longer part of the American citizenry. They are unto themselves. They are a law unto themselves. They worship unto themselves. They live unto themselves.
Yeah.
But we don't need them, because they're in competition for us, the citizens. There are always some that's against each other for us. You're going to find people who will give their money away because they taken a righteous stand. There's a couple of people that I know that have made it their business to point out those people that you're talking about, the billionaires that's doing all of these things. They are And that's why you hear everybody's breaking the news on everybody, whether it's, dirt or what have you. But the good billionaires have made a point of using their billions to show the rats that are there, and you and others act like that ain't a fact. And I know it could be a fact, and you act like the rest of billionaires just going crazy, but they're being pointed out by those that are billionaires and don't mind using their voice to say that. But I don't hear.
But they're still accumulating power and using that power against us.
Well, you get a chance to know, and then you find out the politicians that are selling out, then make wise choices. Find out the politicians that are going toward the one billionaires that have been ratted out, and then make a sober-minded choices. Ain't no use of acting like you're talking like you're falling, rolling over on your back, like there's nothing to do that you can do. Like I said, once again, there are billionaires out there that are pointing the finger and being an example. So it shows that those like what the mayor of New York, those that have billions and want to abuse it, you're being pointed out. And all your politicians, they should be looked at how they side with people like that want to use a device like that. So once again.
So what are we not saying that you think we should say?
Say that again.
What is it that you're saying we should be saying that we're not saying? I mean, even the Bible says, with regarding to the rich, that they're supposed to not be using their wealth simply to please themselves, but to help those who lack resources.
That's exactly what. That's why I said there are those who do that and point out the low lives, if you will.
Well, that's
there are those that are done. So it's being done even as we speak. They're being exposed, and you're going to have them. There are those that are not going to follow the Lord because it's good from the Lord gave them those instructions, but not everybody's going to be like the good billionaires that point out the bad ones. All we have to do is make sure our politicians don't side with the billionaires once the good billionaires point them out or be the type of example that they should be, and they're not being.
You know what? I would love to do that. I mean, for example, I remember when people talked about, I believe was it Herman Cain?
Yeah. Herman.
Okay. You've pointed out the philanthropy of Herman Cain before he passed, that he, even though he was an incredibly wealthy man, that he looked for opportunities to invest in Atlanta, to help the inner city to thrive, to grow. And yet here we have it at the other end of the spectrum. We have this group of people that have grown incredibly wealthy, and they have done nothing positive towards improving the lives of citizens. Nothing. If anything, they've taken advantage of the current situation, the pandemic, to enrich themselves.
Right.
I think some have done good, just for the sake of just erring on the side of doing something good.
Well, we know
that they might do that we don't see, and I'm always about to have full cup. Have the abuse and the greed, and they could care less about humanity or anything. But I do hear all of you. This Buffett guy, this Warren Buffett, like how he came out and exposed other billionaires by his ability to have the type of charity that he have. That where when he speaks, I mean, his money goes. It's not like there are a lot, but there are those that, I mean, you get a chance to see their records and see what they've done and how they apply their money and if they've invested. And then if our politicians are backing them, you can make the connection. So I don't think we're all together.
Well,
helpless.
Warren Buffett himself said that the rich were committing class warfare against the poor. He said class warfare is absolutely going on, and the rich are winning. That's what Warren Buffett said.
They did not tell you we had some rich billionaires. That's what I'm trying to get through to you. You should have said this. instead of me. You have that piece of information there. So try harder to think about the good billionaires that'll give you the type of information.
But we shouldn't have to wait on good billionaires. That's the point. The fact
well,
that
then have patience. You've learned that to be a virtue. But if you see, hey, I know I'm answering all your questions too fast for you. But hey, when you see the opportunity to be enlightened, have the information, use that as a tool. When you heard a billionaire give you this kind of information about the other billionaires, you're gonna have some. Train your ear always to hear, because it's more than his voice out there doing it, but it's once you learn how to hear, just means bringing it up. You brought even more information than just using the name Buffett. And I know very little about him, but I heard that he did something. And you heard in Pacific how he say what the rich are doing and everything, letting you know there's a billionaire that will speak the truth, and that, and he'll point them out.
Said that every single billionaire who's ever lived has been, Mr. some sort of horrible monster. But what we're saying is that the idea that you have these people that have that much wealth and power, it is in itself a threat to democracy. It's a threat to all of us to have that much, for them to have that much money.
No, that's just something that I think that's the boogeyman under the bed that we create in our imagination, that somebody's going to get world power because he got just too much money. Now let us start shaking over that, because that's a real fact and real threat. They have enough money, they're going to change democracy. Ooh, and, I see too much of that, and I think you need to be a little bit more prayerful so you won't be so fearful.
All right.
Be more prayerful so you won't be so
I don't think any of us
I don't think
any of us are afraid of anything. We're just saying that, look, to whom much is given, much is required.
Absolutely. All right.
Amen.
Thank you for your call, Doc. We got to get to right, but before we get out of here, I definitely want to get to the second round of Happy Happies. Because it's almost, we got 10 minutes left. We don't have much time to get into much of anything else and have a really long, productive conversation. Yeah. So let's get the second round of Happy Happies out.